we continue to see a decline in our budget in real terms. This has resulted in class sizes that are too large and insufficient funding to provide what we should be providing, such as additional educators and classrooms, which we so desperately need. I've said before what a devastating impact the nationally negotiated wage increases have had on our budget because the national government did not provide the money to the provinces to pay what they had agreed to. The impact of this has been 1.3 billion rand over the previous MTEF, and this year alone an additional amount of 1.789 billion rand is required. Clearly, this has had a significant impact on our ability to deliver the kind of services our residents deserve. In addition, we still continue to see increases in the number of learners in the Western Cape schools annually, whilst the money does not follow them from National Treasury. More than 130,000 learners have relocated to the Western Cape over the past 5 years, costing the department around an additional 1.1 billion rand in total. This year alone, we have an extra 25,388 learners in our schools, compared to last year, representing an additional cost of about 375 million rand per year at today's costs, excluding infrastructure. And as we have to keep cutting into the bone, because we have long since cut to the bone, it is our poorest schools that are affected the most. Because of the iniquitous national quintile policy, many schools that have to be classified as quintile 4 and 5, yet in reality serve poor communities, are finding themselves in a dire position because of their own funding constraints and the impact of continued rising poverty. I receive appeals from schools to change their status from fee-paying to non-fee-paying, or to change their quintile, which I am very sympathetic to, but there simply isn't budget. Also, unless the school falls into quintile 1 to 3, they do not qualify to participate in the National Schools Nutrition Programme, which many desperately need. In terms of Section 39(7) of the South African Schools Act, Minister Masheka has determined that 60% of all learners in the country should be in quintiles 1 to 3 for 2017. The 2017 National Poverty Distribution Table allowed for 40.3% of the Western Cape learners to be allocated to the no-free schools. But in analysing figures from around the country, in an attempt to try and understand why we are not being enabled to provide more for our poorer communities, it appears that the national average of learners in quintile 1 to 3 schools is in fact 76.8% and not the prescribed 60%. With Limpopo reporting as high as 96.3% of learners in quintile 1 to 3 schools when they were supposed in terms of the national policy not to exceed 77%, which is already one of the highest in the country. I don't need excuses. I'm not the one who needs excuses. Instead, the WCED, out of our own allocation, and with no additional funding from national government, is supporting 218 quintile 4 schools by making them no-fee schools. The WCED has also reached out...
Order, please. Members. Minister Schaefer, kindly take your seat. Honourable Dankie, an interjection is allowed, but a running commentary is not allowed. Please do not embarrass yourself and the institution. Thank you. You may interject, but no running commentary, because if you do, I will not hesitate to invoke Rule 44. I'm not threatening you. I'm putting you on notice. Thank you. I'm just putting you on notice. Thank you. All right. Order, please, and manage yourselves. You may proceed, Minister Schaefer.
Thank you, Speaker.
I've just talked to you a minute ago. That's not an interjection. God.
You know what they say about empty kettles, Madam Speaker. The WCED...
sorry, Minister Schaefer, kindly take your seat. Chief Whip Wiley.
Deputy Speaker, over and above your ruling, which you've asked that be done, and I would like to remind the House that there are pupils present here today. That's the first thing. Secondly, Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition has just raised a blasphemous epithet by saying, "For Christ's sakes." I'm going to ask that the Leader of the Opposition, please, or to ask you to ask the Leader of the Opposition to withdraw that blasphemous epithet.
Honourable Magaka, your comment "for Christ's sake" is deemed to be offensive. And hence the reason the Chief Whip rose to ask that you withdraw that. Yes, you may.
In what way? Which rule is that?
No, Honourable Magaka.
In what way? How it offends? Who is offended?
Well, there might be Christians in the room who are offended. Thank you. All right. I will go back and I will study this and I will come back to the House with a ruling. But members, honourable members, let me emphasise, honourable members, we are not here for our own gain. We have guests in the gallery. We have South Africans watching this sitting on YouTube, and one would expect that with the highest office that you hold, you would manage yourselves with dignity and decorum. Now, you certainly are no example to the learners in this gallery today. What do they take away with them when they leave Parliament today? Do you think they leave you with a good impression? Those are people who earn taxpayers' money, and look at how they behave. Come now, we need to manage ourselves with dignity and decorum. So I'm calling you to order and I'm asking you to cooperate. You may proceed, Minister.
Thank you, Speaker.
Well, maybe your behaviour is unacceptable. It might be all the time, but it might be considered unacceptable. You may proceed, Minister.
Thank you. The WCED has also reached out to its remaining fee-charging schools by topping up their norms and standards allocation in order for the schools to at least have the same income base as a no-fee school and to remain financially viable. 98 schools benefit from this pro-poor policy. This year, we have budgeted in excess of 53 million rand for fee exemption, far exceeding any other province in this pro-poor policy. We would love to expand the number of schools in quintile 1 to 3 and believe that it is justified. But it is a huge risk for us to take without an undertaking from national government to provide us with the additional funding to provide, for example, the feeding program. If other provinces are receiving such funding, whilst not complying with the national policy, it would be most unfair for the Western Cape not to receive the same. I have written to the Minister of Basic Education in this regard and look forward to her response. Our strategic plan for 2015 to 19 and the Provincial strategic plan set out our primary objectives. I'm pleased that despite the financial challenges, we have made progress in achieving them. Our performance in the National Senior Certificate is once again pleasing, with the Western Cape again achieving the highest percentage of bachelor's passes in the country at 39.1%. The highest pass rate in mathematics of 73.9% and the second highest in physical science of 73%. On the inclusive basket of criteria, determined by the National Minister as the real measure of quality performance, including retention from grade 10, we remain in the #1 position. And improvements in language and mathematics is a key focus area for this government.
Honourable Olivier.
And I'm therefore very pleased that the systemic tests conducted in 2017 ultimately show us that our language and maths interventions are working, and that the quality of teaching and learning in our schools in the Western Cape is improving, even in the face of decreasing budgets in real terms and increasing numbers. This is so particularly in the foundation phase, which is so crucial for the acquisition of these competencies. We saw marked improvements in the foundation phase with grade 3 learners, improving their maths pass rate by 2.1% from 2016, and their language by 5%, with an increase in learners writing of over 5,000. The grade 6 and 9 results either remained the same or increased or decreased by a minor percentage point. I'm pleased that with the increased number of learners writing these tests, we were able to sustain the pass rate when compared to 2016. This is so especially in mathematics, where we saw a large jump a few years ago, which some thought was an anomaly, but which has been sustained. These tests continue to inform our language and mathematics interventions and improve the management of education and learner performance. If we did not have these tests, we would not be able to design appropriate new maths and language strategies and interventions to improve teaching and learning in these crucial subjects. The Year of the Teacher was a key theme of the Western Cape Education Department's activities during 2017. We used this time to listen, to reflect, to acknowledge and to celebrate the province's excellent teaching corps, as well as highlight the importance of professionalism in the workplace. This year we have adopted the theme 2018, the Year of Value-Driven Learning. We have retained celebrating our excellent teachers as a sub-theme and to maintain the momentum of our theme last year, focusing on teachers. Our vision as a department reflects our deep commitment to values that are necessary to ensure quality education for every child in every classroom in every school. Our educators continue to do us proud. Congratulations especially must go to Miss Wendy Horn, who's so small she can hardly be seen in my box. Please stand, Wendy Horn. This is the principal of Protea Heights Academy, a maths and science focus school who was listed as one of 50 finalists in the Global Teacher of the Year Award 2017. The Global Teacher Awards The Global Teacher Awards is now an annual event at the Global Education and Skills Forum, organized by the Vaki Foundation, and has been dubbed the Nobel Prize for Teaching. With over 8,000 applicants from 148 countries around the world, being shortlisted in the top 50 finalists is a remarkable achievement. Well done. Madam Speaker, while the budget allocation to education has increased from 20.722 billion in 2017-18 to 22.193 billion in 2018-19, the majority of the increased funding provides for the increases in conditions of service. 75% of the budget is allocated to the compensation of employees. The remaining 25% is needed to fund all other programs contained in this budget, including funds directed to our schools through norms and standards, funding, furniture, textbooks, infrastructure, and examinations, transport, to name a few. It also needs to fund our other pro-poor initiatives. In the Western Cape, for example, 85.15% of the budget allocations of our resources in respect of items such as work, textbooks, stationery, learner transport, and feeding programs goes to the poorest 60% of our learner population. This shows what a DA government does even in the face of uncaring ANC policies and budget allocation. Owing to the increases, for quintile 1 to 3 only, Owing to the increases in learner numbers, the budget for learner transport increases by more than 13 million rand to over 393 million rand. And an amount of over 43 million is allocated for the increasing need for hostel accommodation. Madam Speaker, it is a sad reality that many children in South Africa arrive at school daily with an empty stomach. This is why the Western Cape government is committed to ensuring that our poorer learners receive not just one, but 2 nutritious meals at school every day. The school nutrition program feeds more than 471,000 learners from 996 schools. The amount allocated to the feeding program for the 2018-19 financial year is more than 357 million rand. In addition, we continue to feed 76,059 learners in 309 quintile 4 to 5 schools that serve poorer communities, as well as 26,245 children in the after-school program to ensure that our poorer learners are able to participate. Another example of a caring DA government. In 2016, I published the draft Western Cape Provincial Schools Education Amendment Bill. This has now gone through the processes that I am required to follow and has been tabled in the provincial legislature for processing. It went out for public comment on Friday, the 9th of March. Pending finalisation of the bill, we have been piloting the new School Evaluation Authority for over a year now. We have made substantial progress, and it has been generally welcomed in schools where it has been trialled. Sharpening the focus of evaluation is one aspect of what we are calling the Transforming School Accountability Project, or TSA. Another part of this is improving our use of data, and we are developing very useful tools for our officials to use to identify performance trends and more accurately determine areas for improvement and where accountability for these actions lies. I'm particularly excited about this new innovation that will drive school improvement through accountability and support in this financial year. I'm also very pleased that it is attracting positive attention outside the Western Cape. And again, I would like to thank all our partners in this project, particularly ARC Schools and Project Manager Ramani Pinnock. Madam Speaker, given the long-term effects of poverty and inequality in our schools, compounded by the financial constraints that we as a government are facing, many of the public schools in poorer communities need extra support for management, teachers and learners, as well as additional financial resources. We have therefore had to explore new, innovative and collaborative ways of improving the quality of public schooling for learners from poorer communities, in line with the province's strategic goal to improve educational outcomes and opportunities for youth development. Another provision in the amendment bill is a provision made specifically for collaboration schools. The aim of this project was to bring in additional education management skills and innovation into the public school system through non-profit partnerships to improve the quality of teaching and learning in no-fee public schools, assisted by top-up funding from private donors. It is one of the ways I truly believe we can narrow the gap between richer and poorer communities, and is yielding promising results. Our Collaboration Schools project now comprises 10 schools, with 2 new such schools having opened at the beginning of this year. In spite of resistance from certain quarters, we have had excellent reactions from communities, and they are happy with what they are seeing. Since the inception of the new model, the various funders have committed over 150 million rand to the project. This model has brought additional capacity to the schools in the form of governance, training, support, and social capital. The operating partners have been working with schools to develop specific school improvement plans and are implementing those plans. Although it is still very early days, the 2017 systemic test results are very encouraging. In the 3 primary schools that started this project 2 years ago, we saw an average improvement at grade 3 level from 13.4% to 32.9% in language, and from 29.3% to 53.3% in mathematics.
What are those different schools?
I'll give them to you later. At grade 6 level, average language results increased from 19% to 23.5%, and maths from 16.2% to 25.1%. In the 2 high schools, we unfortunately saw a decrease in the mathematics, but this was largely influenced by the fire in Hout Bay and some teething problems at Langa High School. Nevertheless, the language results still improved from 13.5% to 18.9%. So overall, these are remarkable improvements in such a short space of time, and I'm looking forward to what they can do in the next few years. Thanks once again to all our partners in this innovative project. I reported last year on the exciting partnership we have in Bonnievale, which has resulted in the new high school, Jakes Gerwel, opening its doors at the beginning of this year. This is truly a miraculous achievement. We also have another exciting project in the Breda Valley. It is true that some of the greatest things have been done by people you have never heard of, quietly dedicating their lives to improving the lives of others. A donor who wishes to remain anonymous has committed to replacing and maintaining the Boetes Halter Primary School in the Breda Valley. The new building complex will provide a state-of-the-art, world-class school facility to primary school learners. Included as part of the school complex is an auditorium-type multi-purpose hall, 3 fully fitted-out specialist classrooms with sewing machines, handwork and woodwork equipment, and musical instruments, as well as a state-of-the-art science laboratory. The school will open its doors to 250 learners at the start of the 2019 academic year. This kind of generosity and vision from private sector partners is greatly valued and will make a difference for learners in these areas for years to come. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Madam Speaker, I referred earlier to the worst drought in a century that we are currently experiencing. Once again, we have had to spring into action and deviate from our plans in order to try and secure our schools so that they become more water efficient and more self-sufficient. As a department, we have prioritized funding for the drought response program for water resource infrastructure projects amounting to 300 million rand for the 2018-19 financial year. Unfortunately, this has had to come from our already starved provincial budget, as no additional funds have yet been forthcoming from national government to assist our schools. The 300 million rand we are investing is being invested in projects to provide augmented water supplies to schools in areas most affected by the drought. Last year, officials of the WCD and DTPW began surveying the needs of schools extensively, and officials have developed detailed plans based on overall needs and the needs of individual schools. And I want to pay tribute to Mr. Archie Lewis and his team, who have been doing extremely hard work on this project. The focus of the investigation was to ensure water security at schools, to ensure water for hygiene and fire security, and drinking water, with the overall objective being that schools remain open after day 0 in the event that this materializes, which we sincerely hope it will not. Our main focus has been on ensuring that schools have the additional facilities they need to source, store, and use augmented water supplies. Most of the planned interventions cover supplies of non-potable water to schools for hygiene and fire security. The WCD is also currently installing leak detectors at 120 schools, as well as testing existing borehole water quality. The availability of groundwater at schools is also being established, and the WCD is in the process of procuring 1,181 water storage containers, which are to be installed at schools without water tanks within the City of Cape Town area. In addition, to ensure fire safety in a day 0 scenario, 24,096 additional fire extinguishers are in the process of being procured and will be supplied to all schools. Principals in our schools will continue to play a key role in public education on responsible water use. She's got to drink some water. Given the cost of the above, we are most appreciative when we are assisted by the private sector. Included in these savings measures is the installation of digital water metering systems that provide accurate data on water consumption at schools. Last year, Bridget, started by Stellenbosch University, developed a digital water metering system that monitors water consumption in real time. Consumers can use the system to detect leaks and intervene strategically to cut consumption based on data generated by the system. The ShopRite Group, in partnership with Bridget and Cape Talk Radio, launched the Smart Water Meter Challenge in November last year. The retailer funded the installation of smart water meters at 100 of the top water-using schools in Cape Town and got 82 corporates to pledge to install a further 260 smart water meters in just a 3-month period. The savings generated by these meters at schools are huge. And not only do they help us save water, the water we so desperately need to do, but also assist our schools financially in terms of savings on municipal costs. In total, 204 schools have saved over R2.5 million and over 36 million litres of water. Thank you. A top water saving school. Thank you, Honourable Chef.
Honourable Dianki, if this was school, you would be going to the naughty corner.
A top water saving school is Yomele Primary in Khayelitsha, where consumption has decreased by 76% since the installation of the smart device, and a total of R272,000 has been saved. This is an excellent example of the private sector rising to the challenge of a crisis and working with all parties on a solution. I must thank ShopRite, Bridget, and the University of Stellenbosch, the team at Cape Talk, as well as every company and individual that has pledged to this water meter initiative. Your support is greatly appreciated. I'm joined today by my special guests who have all played a crucial role in this project, and I really would like to acknowledge them. If I could stand up quickly somewhere there. All those Bridget, ShopRite, Cape Talk, thank you. Madam Speaker, school safety is a concern around the world, as we have recently seen in the tragic incident in Florida, USA. We continue working with all role players to ensure the safety of our teachers and learners as far as we possibly can. Safe Schools officials are working closely with schools and partners in every sector to implement plans to safeguard our public schools. The program includes security infrastructure mechanisms such as perimeter fencing, electronic access control, burglar bars, metal detectors, and monitored alarm systems linked to an armed response service, as well as improving the social environment at schools, including youth development and conflict management programs. We help schools to develop and implement their own individual safety plans and assist them in mobilizing community support for schools. Safe Schools also engages with school safety clusters regularly within education districts, where cluster support needs are discussed and addressed. In my capacity as chairperson of the Provincial Steering Committee for Strategic Goal 2, Improving Education Outcomes and Opportunities for Youth Development, I'm pleased with the progress we have made in strengthening the relationships between the province and crucial national departments that have the primary mandate and budget for justice and policing, which are so crucial in maintaining safe and secure environments. Firstly, a senior official in the WCED now chairs the Priority Committee on School Safety. This is an excellent platform for sharing information and better coordination of responses in emergencies between all relevant role players. It is also assisting in planning preemptive safety-related work at schools with the focus that our limited safety resources are deployed when and where most needed. Secondly, the SteerCom serves as an interministerial committee in terms of the National Anti-Gangsterism Strategy, which comprises the Provincial Ministers of Education, Community Safety, Social Development and Sport, Arts and Culture, as well as senior representative from the SAPS, the National Prosecuting Authority, the Department of Justice, Correctional Services, and the City Law Enforcement and Metro Police. They attend and are invited. The objective of the committee is to discuss improved mechanisms to decrease gang-related crime and to develop strategies to support our youth in order to prevent them from participating in gangsterism themselves. Thirdly, we are introducing a school risk classification tool, which has been developed in consultation between the WCD, City of Cape Town, SAPS, and DOCS. This tool will allow us to identify and classify existing and emerging safety risks so that the relevant security infrastructure and other resources are deployed when and where most needed. We are also working together in the Western Cape government across various departments to try and address the complex social issues that give rise to young people getting involved in gangs. We are, however, under no illusion that the fight against the gangs is hindered by our severely under-resourced police stations and the inefficient justice system, not to mention the alleged gang links with senior ANC politicians. Every school forms part of its community and is inevitably affected by challenges facing that community, including gangsterism and drugs. Parents and communities also have key roles to play in ensuring safe school environments and positive behavior, as it is only through a whole of society approach that we will be able to make significant progress in dealing with this complex issue that is bedeviling so many of our communities. This year we will invest over 34 million rand into the Safe Schools program. While this funding will not necessarily end violence in and around schools, it will be used to provide and reinforce targeted security infrastructure support to schools. Unfortunately, despite the additional security support and enforcement, some of our schools still fall victim to vandalism and burglaries. A reality of the budgetary constraints that we are facing is that we have had to cut the Emergency School Maintenance Fund by 5 million rand. In 2018-19, 25 million rand has been allocated to the Emergency Maintenance Fund, which will assist in repairing schools affected by burglary and vandalism. In 2018-19, the WCED will again be investing a large allocation towards school infrastructure to meet the growing demand for schooling in the province, as well as to replace schools built with inappropriate materials. Allocation towards infrastructure development is an amount of over 1.6 billion rand, while the amount allocated to new and replacement schools is 531 million rand. In order to accommodate just the additional 25,388 learners this year alone, we effectively need another 25 to 30 schools, which cost around 60 million rand per school. This totals between 1.5 and 1.8 billion rand. Given that we have similar numbers every year, we require that kind of budget every year just for new schools. Given that we still have backlogs in our existing infrastructure requirements, as well as that we have to maintain our existing infrastructure, it is quite obvious that the amount allocated is insufficient. And yet the national government has just cut the education infrastructure grant. Madam Speaker, while there are huge needs in infrastructure, there is a very real possibility that infrastructure development projects may need to be delayed because of the funding cuts, budget pressures, and the prioritization of water saving and supply measures. It was only through the tragic loss of life in the Eastern Cape that the national government has finally woken up to some of the desperate needs our schools have. While the Western Cape is far more advanced in terms of ablution facilities at schools, and we do not have any pit toilets, as reported by the DBE, we do have schools that have insufficient sanitation for the increased number of learners at the school. The WCED does have a maintenance program in place to improve conditions at these schools in stages. And now we have the President insisting on sanitation being upgraded, and rightly so, but after he has just cut the infrastructure budget. It is amazing that billions can be poured into mismanaged SOEs on an ongoing basis, but we cannot find money to build proper school infrastructure and employ sufficient teachers to educate our young people. The best thing the President can do is abolish the quintile system and change the provincial equitable share formula to respond to the number of learners we have in the system, not the number we had 7 years ago. I am pleased, though, that in the 2018-19 financial year, we will see the completion of 7 new schools and 3 replacement schools. Maintenance of our existing schools also remains a priority, with many of our poorer schools unable to keep up with maintenance and repairs. 435 million rand will be allocated towards maintenance in schools. Madam Speaker, another priority for the WCED is to provide for our learners with special needs, for which there is also an increasing demand. This year we have allocated over 1.3 billion rand to special needs education. Inclusive education seeks to include learners with special needs as far as possible in ordinary mainstream schools. With additional support provided, some of these learners are then able to attend a local school. The WCED currently supports over 82,000 learners with low to moderate level support needs in mainstream and full-service ordinary schools. 18,500 learners attend 71 special schools in the Western Cape, including schools of skills. Over the past year, 2 new schools of skill were opened. These are Wellington and Eureka, both in the Cape Winelands district. I'm also pleased that 2 brand new special needs school buildings opened this year, namely Sherry Botha and Risthoff Special School. Madam Speaker, we also welcome the introduction of sign language as a matric subject nationally. Sign language specialists at the WCED have played a key role in making this possible. The WCED embarked on a 3-year South African Sign Language pilot project from 2011 to 2013 to establish SASL as a subject in schools for the deaf. The SASL curriculum developed was first implemented in the Western Cape in grade R to 3 from January 2011 and has been implemented incrementally, and for the first time it is being implemented in grade 12 in 2018. I am pleased that we have already identified significant improvement in the academic achievement of learners at the 5 WCED schools for the deaf using SASL. At long last, learners are learning in their first language. I look forward to seeing the results of the first cohort of matriculants in the subject at the end of 2018 and will be most proud that this all began in the Western Cape. Madam Speaker, South Africa is a multilingual country with a rich diversity of languages, reflective of our multicultural population, and while highlighting the importance of learning in our home language, I'm delighted to announce that following a successful pilot over the last 3 years, the WCD at the start of the second school term will be rolling out Xhosa to an additional 254 schools, including 725 grade 1 classes, reaching 26,350 learners in the province. The Western Cape has the largest number of schools in the country where Afrikaans and English are the first and second languages. The WCED currently offers Xhosa in 23.61% of our schools. The department is, however, conscious of the importance of languages and communication in promoting social cohesion and nation building, and we plan to strengthen the teaching of African languages through the incremental introduction of African languages in all public schools from grades 1 to 12. Madam Speaker, the ongoing professional development of our educators is of the utmost importance, and we will be investing over 92 million rand in it this year, an increase of 7 million rand from last year. This year, the CTLI, Cape Teacher and Leadership Institute, in partnership with UCT, Stellenbosch University, and the ETDP CETA, availed bursaries to a number of educators who are teaching subjects or phases for which they are not qualified. Through the 2-year Advanced Certificate in Teaching and the Advanced Diploma in Education courses, teachers will be requalified to match their qualifications with what they are teaching. The CTLI will also be running intensive interventions for ICT integration. The training of school leadership and teachers in digital technology continues at an accelerated pace. Just under 2,000 teachers participated in ICT development programs last year. In addition, a group of 300 teachers also successfully completed an accredited UCT course in ICT integration. Over the past weekend, 100 participants were enrolled at University of Pretoria to start an honours degree in ICT integration, and they have been registered by ETDP CETA for bursaries. The CTLI has also started integrating ICT into our foundation phase courses. Teachers are now able to apply for courses online with pre- and post-testing done online, and all group work is done in Google Classroom. Coordinators can now see exactly what is happening in the groups and engage with individuals online. Despite varying IT competencies, all the teachers have bought into this, and I am pleased to hear that they have cooperated enthusiastically. In 2017, the CTLI also introduced training interventions for grade R teachers and practitioners. The response to these interventions was overwhelming, and I'm pleased that this year we will continue with a grade R course in language teaching. Madam Speaker, the Premier elaborated on the e-learning game changer in her address, so I will be very brief in that regard. The WCED has invested over 266 million rand towards e-learning in the 2018-19 financial year, and over 1.2 billion rand over a 5-year period. Key elements of the e-learning program include a high-speed internet connectivity, wide area network linking schools across the province, and local area networks in schools that connect to the WAN. The Premier detailed what we will have achieved by the end of our term, and we are well on track in respect of infrastructure delivery. The e-portal, which provides access to digital resources to teachers, learners, and other users, was launched in 2016 and now has over 11,600 digital resources. The department has designed the portal to make it as easy as possible for content developers to contribute content directly and to share links to the content. Teachers have responded extremely well to the program so far, and I am pleased that many teachers are providing excellent examples of how to enhance teaching and learning using e-learning at the respective schools. The WCED has also developed an online competency assessment tool that enables teachers to identify the skills they need on various levels to apply e-learning in the classroom. The department has introduced online courses on all levels that teachers can follow in their own time to build the skills they have identified for development. The South African Council of Educators has officially approved these courses, which count towards professional development credits. The WCED's e-admin workstream is designing systems for school administration and management that will help to reduce the administrative burden on schools. Schools will be able to use the systems to improve school management and planning. The systems will include online assessment and classroom management tools. This year, at the National Teaching Awards, Mariette Forster, formerly of Toes Runton Primary School, won the National Teaching Award for Excellence in Technology-Enhanced Learning. Teaching and learning, sorry. She is now working in the district in sharing her knowledge in incorporating e-learning into the classroom. This is the second time that a Western Cape teacher has won this award in the past 3 years. Madam Speaker, it is clear from the budget that I have outlined today that despite facing immense challenges, the WCED continues to produce excellent results. This can only be done with committed, dedicated staff across the board. And I want to pay tribute to each one of our hardworking members, both teaching and non-teaching staff, who give their all every day for the benefit of our young people. I'm aware that there is still much to do to address the gap between poor and well-resourced schools and to improve education across the board, and we will continue working towards that goal. We as a government have quite rightly prioritised frontline services, and all of our departments are taking significant strain. In this regard, I would like to thank my Cabinet colleagues that we in education have not had to take another cut this year, whilst there are significant cuts in other areas. Thanks also to the Premier, Minister Mayor and Provincial Treasury for their support in this regard. I must also thank members of the Standing Committee under the leadership of Mr. Basil Kibido for their oversight and for holding us accountable. Special thanks to the SG and our EXCO for all that you do and for your exceptional commitment to the department and the youth of our province. And lastly, but very definitely not least, an extra special thank you to the amazing team in my office, which has been led by Brona Casey since my appointment. They really do put in everything to make sure that we serve the voters as best we possibly can and to try and make my life that much easier. Thank you very much. Finally, I would like to acknowledge some key people in the department who have retired or are retiring at the end of this month. Our Metro South District Director, Mr. Glenn van Hartler, is retiring after 33 years of service, and our Director of Communications, Mr. Paddy Atwell, after 17 years service. I must thank both of them for their commitment and dedication to the WCED and to the learners of our province, and I wish them all the very best in their retirement. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Minister Schaefer. I now see the Honourable Member Kavido.
Professor, Honourable Madam Speaker, Honourable Premier, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Members of the Executive, all Honourable fellow members from all the different parties, the SG for the WCD, Mr. Brian Schreder and his team, all role players and stakeholders in this specific sector, support staff, media, distinguished guests on the gallery, and specifically the learners from Tafelsig High School in Mitchells Plain. Honourable Madam Speaker, just allow me, I'm going to deviate slightly from my prescribed speech. Seeing there are two good reasons for that.
Order, please.
The first one is this is what they call the graveyard session. I'm going to save time. And the performance and achievements of the Western Cape Education Department is well documented. And what the Minister said is a true reflection of what is happening on the ground. So there's actually nothing for me to say. I may just as well relax and sit down and relax, but okay. Allow me, Honourable Madam Speaker, to address these young people in front of me. Before I start, because I see this as part of my oversight role also. Welcome, youngsters. Let us give them a round of applause again for buying out your time and making the sacrifice and finding it necessary. And I'm speaking on behalf of your constituency head, Mr. Honourable Mackenzie. Ricardo Mackenzie, I think most of you know him. He asked me to give you a special word of welcome. And also in terms of the way forward. may you grasp all the opportunities that Minister Debbie Schaffer has spoken about now in terms of unlocking all the possibilities, all the opportunities for in chartering your future. It's all about exercising choices. You have the choice to become somebody, and you have the choice to become a nobody. You have the choice to become a number one, or you have the choice to become a nummer 28. So let it be evidently clear that the choice should be exercised while you have the chance. Very welcome. And just in conclusion, as far as you are concerned, you enjoy your liberties, enjoy your freedom, but remember, it goes hand in glove with accountability and responsibility. Good luck to you as far as your studies are concerned, and also your parents, your families who are all behind you, and all your support system, your peer groups. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. Honorable Madam Speaker, so I'm just going to highlight a few salient features and trends in terms of what the Minister also said. As chairperson of the Standing Committee on Education in this Parliament, I am trusted with the task of performing oversight over the Western Cape Department of Education, together with an extremely competent team. And remember, it's an inter-party team. It's a competent team that holds the WCED accountable. And now I switch over to the WCED and look over to that side. Whenever we interrogate them in-house or in terms of our oversight outside of this building, they are always honest, distinct, clear, and realistic. I think they also need a round of applause. Furthermore, it is exceptionally important that we perform our oversight function in the interest of the people of this province and in a way that ensures that capacity building continues to take place in the respective department. And you know, Honourable Olivier, we do it rigorously and with vigor and passionately, with passion also. Am I right? Thanks for nodding. Thank you. Honourable Speaker, it was revealed at the end of last year in the Progress in International Reading Literacy Study, the PIRLS, which included nearly 320,000 children globally, that South Africa was placed last out of 50 countries. Yeah, okay. It's disappointing, but it's a challenge. It's not a crisis. It's a challenge. Moving slightly away from, just listen to this one. Moving slightly away from party politics, Speaker. It is deeply concerning that according to research conducted by the University of Pretoria last year, it was revealed that 8 out of every 10 grade 4 pupils still cannot read at an appropriate level. And I think I had to mention moving out of party politics, because this is a national issue which concerns all of us. Whether my child is in the, goes to school in the leafy suburbs or in Kreefgat, it doesn't matter. Kreefgat is a place near Elsie River where I work. There are more notorious places than that as well. But what is important is that there are issues that we should tackle simultaneously, together for the sake of South Africa. Take the pit toilet, for instance, in Dimbaza, where that 5-year-old little girl drowned and died horrific, the most horrific deaths that the human mind can imagine. And now the point is this, Mr. Enver Surti, the Deputy Minister of Education, made an appeal, just listen carefully. Yes, the instruction to all of us people, that we should take hands as South Africans and see that these things don't happen. Not in a civilized world, not in a civilized country, we are not going to be satisfied with that, but it asks the muscle of ANC, of IFP, of HEDP, of EFF, of DA, of all of us. And we are not going to play politics with this issue and play and walk over the dead body of that 5 little children. Okay. Madam Speaker, that the National Minister of Basic Education, Angie Motshega, believes that the answer to fixing South Africa's educational crisis simply requires lowering the pass requirements in public schools is very worrying. Perhaps it's a quick escape, but it's a worrying factor. One is led to think that our national government would rather not tackle the root cause of our educational problems, but rather have more learners making it to the next grade than re-evaluating the quality of education that is being served to our learners. Madam Speaker, it does not take a rocket scientist to figure out that lowering the pass requirements across public schools will inevitably decrease overall academic standards and eventually collapse the public educational system, which is in dire straits as it is. So dit kom daarop neer, agbare speaker, ons hol nie agter getalle aan nie. Dit is 'n belangrike faset, maar dat ons eerder klem gaan lê, luister mooi, op die kwalitatiewe aspekte, om van ons ware burgers te maak met statuur, wat die land kan vorentoe neem, die ekonomie kan bou, die arbeidssektor kan bou, en die vesel van die hele land kan sterk maak. En dit is ons plig. Speaker, with this in mind, I would like to commend Minister Debbie Schaffer and the department for always going above and beyond the educational standards set out by the National Department as to ensure that the learners of our province are in fact well equipped when entering further educational training institutions of the working world. En goed voorbereide en toegeruste leerders, soos dit hier gestel word, veronderstel een basiese ding, en dit is die herleiding en die toepassing van verworwe kennis in spesifieke leerkontekste en ook binne die arbeidsmark en ook daar waar dit saak maak waar jy betrokke raak in die op 'n lewensvatbare manier en volhoubare manier binne die ekonomie. En dit is wat ons kinders moet aanleer. Dat die kennis wat hulle doen, en dit het te doen ook met loopbaangerigte onderwys, dat die onderwysdoelwit of die onderwysuitkoms na 'n bepaalde visie of 'n bepaalde einddoel lei. En ek dink ons is goed op pad daarheen. Even though the pass requirements may be lowered in public schools in the near future, I'm pleased that the WCD, in pursuit of the provincial education goals, will maintain a strong focus on inter alia, improvements in the level of language and mathematics in all schools, increasing the number and in particular the quality of passes in the National Senior Certificate, increasing the quality of education provision in poorer communities. And in pure, I want to latch on rural schools as well. You know, schools in the remote areas, that we reach out to them, we give them the same opportunities, we create the same space and the same opportunities for them, so that they can also thrive within the educational realm. Ons skeep hulle nie af nie, en ons is eintlik kragdadig besig om daarheen te werk. Progressief, aggressief en soos ek gesê het, op 'n kragdadige wyse. Om die onderwys, en ook veral onderwys, tegnologie en tegnologiese innoverende onderwys na hierdie afgeleë plekke te neem. En ek dink dit is van onskatbare waarde waaroor ons almal trots kan voel. Ons almal trots kan voel. Madam Speaker, in the midst of difficult socio-economic times facing our country, I'm pleased to see that the Education Department has remained responsive and efficient in addressing the various educational demands from all corners of the province. Nou hierdie aspekte waarvan ek nou praat, is waar die WKOD inkom, en toe ek praat van hulle verantwoordbaarheid, deursigtigheid en ook eerlikheid en realisme rondom en rasionalisme rondom hierdie aspekte soos infrastruktuur. Ons weet daar is skole wat uitmekaar uitval, maar ons adresseer dit. Ons weet daar is 'n ratio wat ons graag wil laer bring, ons werk daaraan. Dit kan gebeur. Maar wat belangrik is dat hierdie departement alle ongelykhede wil uitskakel. Luister gou, Rome was nie in een dag gebou nie, hoor. Rome was nie in een dag gebou nie, né? Ons is besig om hierdie ongelykhede uit te skakel en op 'n gelykheidsbeginsel voort te gaan. Madam Speaker, in the midst of difficult socio-economic times facing our country, I'm pleased to see that the Educational Department has remained responsive. En ek het dit weer herhaal en ek los hom so. I welcome the 22.193 billion that has been allocated to the WCD for the 2018-19 financial year. This budget allocation has ensured that education still maintains the second largest portion of the provincial budget after the health department. Madam Speaker, it can be rest assured that where the DA governs, education remains a key component to investments being made in human development and as a tool to alleviate poverty and reduce youth unemployment. An integral part of ensuring that learners succeed at school requires our schools being equipped with teachers who are capable of delivering educational content in a way that is practical, insightful, and that adds value to the overall learning experience. Wat hier veronderstel word is dat onderwysers so 'n trappie moet verder gaan as bloot konvensionele kurrikulumonderrig, maar ook so 'n bietjie kyk na wysheids- en universele kennis generering by leerders. Dit is belangrik dat ons ons wêreld verstaan, dat ons ons land verstaan, dat ons mekaar verstaan, mekaar se kulture, mekaar se gewoontes, mekaar se gedrag. Dit is belangrik dat ons dit ook as 'n buitekurrikulêre aspek van formele onderrig moet beskou. Speaker, the WCD is doing just that. I mentioned it. This year, the department has set out to continue providing teachers with ongoing training and support. On the brink of the fourth industrial revolution, it is remarkable to see how the department is making the most of modern technology to expand educational opportunities to our young learners. The 2018-19 financial year will see the department continue to provide online services to schools, teachers, and learners. The aim here is to assist in reducing the administration load of schools and to ensure accurate, efficient, and cost-effective provision of resources and services to schools. All the way. All the way. I'm an optimist, brother. I'm an optimist. And I believe in tangible things and it can happen.
Honourable Kivido,
Yes.
don't allow yourself to be baited. Address the chair, please.
Through the
Thank
chair,
you.
I'm terribly sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker.
Don't fall into that trap.
Yes, maar hy's so glibberig. No, they say give credit where credit is due, né? Madam Speaker, where parents are not able to afford public school fees, the DA-led Western Cape government has assisted. I'm pleased that the WCD provides opportunities for school fee exemption to those parents struggling to afford to send their children to school. The DA in the Western Cape believes that no person in this province should fail to have the opportunity to attend school because of their financial circumstances. I'm going to repeat. The DA in the Western Cape believes that no person in this province should fail to have the opportunity to attend school because of their financial circumstances. So we adhere to the tenet, one of the most basic tenets of the Freedom Charter, that the doors of learning and culture should be opened. That the doors of learning and culture shall be opened. And that is the DA policy also.
Order, please.
Can you see how it works? This is all about it.
Order, please,
Madam
members.
Speaker.
There's a speaker on the floor.
It must be noted, Madam Speaker, that over 95% of the schools in our province are either no-fee schools or schools that are being assisted by the Western Cape Education Department in one way or another. Madam Speaker, before I conclude, I would like to use this
Honourable Olivier has given
opportunity.
you some of his time.
Excuse me?
Honourable Olivier said you may continue. He's giving you
May
some
I
of his
continue?
time.
No, I just made a synopsis. Before I conclude, I want to extend this word to the WCED, our Western Cape Education Department. In conclusion then, Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to say that I'm confident that the officials in the Department of Education are fit for purpose. There is no reason to believe that these officials are not only performing their constitutional obligations with the necessary pride, skills, expertise, and commitment, but that this Parliament can be really proud that our province has officials of this caliber. And I thank them for that.
Thank you.
Speaker, dan ten einde wil ek dan die volgende persone en instansies bedank wat die staande komitee deur hierdie jaar baie goed bygestaan het, ondersteun het en ondervang het en tot nou toe. Minister Debbie Scheffer, die premier vir haar leiding, uitstekende leiding. Minister Debbie Scheffer vir haar innoverende denke, skepende vermoëns en die passie waarmee sy dinge doen en haar agterstel en die leerder vooropstel. Dit is vir my 'n kenteken van haar benadering tot haar amp. Baie dankie daarvoor, minister. Die WKOD, die SG, meneer Brian Schreder en sy span, baie dankie vir julle toewyding. En ook regtig waar om ook hier is magicians ook in die parlement. Die onmoontlike reg gekry om 32 bykomende leerders uit ander provinsies te huisves. Geef hulle 'n lekker handeklop daarvoor. 32,000 addisionele leerders uit ander. By the way, it seems to me, we have no, the feeder schools don't exist anymore. We have feeder provinces now. Yes, but it's great. But I think it is great because it's a national thing. We look nationally. And they are more than welcome. We welcome them with open arms and we accommodate them wherever we can. That's what we do. Yeah. Wag nou raak my bril bietjie val. Okay, members of the Standing Committee, my colleagues, I thank you so much for the hard work through the year. All the members of the Standing Committee, the support team, our support teams, the coordinators specifically, Ms. Wasima Hassan-Musa, assistant, who's a coordinator, the assistant coordinator, Ms. Marianne Burgess, and we normally get valuable advice and guidance from Mr. Ben Daza, the senior coordinator. Those who assist with us with our in-house meetings, the IT staff and language practitioners, to all principals, educators, non-teaching staff, SGBs, parents, the whole school community, all stakeholders and role players within the educational sector, the media, my own PA, Ms. Tanya Stein-Dawi, and then my wife, Rochelle, and my little boy of 11 years old. Yeah, I have a boy of 11 years old. Buddha, thanks for their support. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Kivido. I now see the Honourable Olivier. If we can get some order, please, members. Thank you. Honourable Dianki, allow your member to speak, please. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, honourable members, my chairperson of education there, good afternoon. Thank you for reminding us about the Freedom Charter, and you're correct that the Freedom Charter indicates that the doors of learning shall be open. It is a national point, it is a national policy, and we know that the national government led by the African National Congress is leading that doors of learning to be open. So we know that, and thank you for that, for acknowledging the Freedom Charter. Chair, in 1976, young people of this country took upon themselves to change the education landscape in our country when they took to the dusty streets of our country in poor developed communities to voice their dissatisfactions about what was happening at the time within the education system. And as we celebrate Freedom Month, and as we debate Vote 5 today, I believe that this generation of 1976 needs to get a special mention and salute today. This right, Madam Speaker, of education is one of the fruits of freedom that Solomon Mahlangu spoke of when he said, "My blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruit of freedom." Section 29 places a duty on provincial governments, including this government, provincial governments. I think there are 9 provinces, and this is one of the South African provinces. All these provinces, Section 29 places a duty on these governments to take reasonable measures to make education available and accessible.
Order, please.
Madam Speaker, the vision of this department is quality education for every learner in every classroom, every school in the province. This is given expression through the 3 overarching goals, namely an improvement in the levels of language and mathematics in all schools, an increase in the number of quality of passes of the National Senior Certificate, an increase in the quality of education provision in poorer communities. Both the vision and the three overarching goals is in line with the ANC thinking, and we support it. We think it's it's good. I think it speaks to what education is all about. There's nothing wrong with this, and I think this is quite good, and we must compliment where compliment is due. But I also welcome, Madam Speaker, I also welcome the increase in the vote over the MTF period. I'm more encouraged by the National Treasury increase of 8.2% in the equitable share, the 116.72% increase in learner with profound intellectual disabilities grant, well as the increase of 268.82% of the social sector EPWP incentive grant for provinces. This is really living the Freedom Charter, Comrade Chair. So this is the grants that has been increased to your province as well. And I welcome this. I think we owe the National really a hand of applause, Chair. Please. Chair, unfortunately, to every good story, there's also a bad story to tell. You have told the good story of the Western Cape, but let's also look at the other flip side of the coin so that we take both these two analysis or analogies into perspective so that we know, that we do not, take the nation or the Western Cape, or let's take them into confidence on both problems that we have. Despite these increases, Chair, and the subscribed vision and goals, I must, however, draw your attention to the current pitfalls that makes it difficult for this vision and goals of this department to be fully accomplished. Let us now take a journey and navigate these pitfalls and what they are.
That's very interesting. I thought you had very perfect.
I think, Chair, this is, Madam Speaker, I think this is captured
I will
very
protect
well.
you from your member.
This is, Madam Speaker, this is captured very well in a report or a study done by Equal Education, who helped us, identify the hindrances in the schools in our province. This includes poor sanitation, insecurity, and on for learners on school premises and to school, teacher shortages, discriminatory policies and codes, teenage pregnancies, and illegal and use of corporal punishment at schools. These were outlined in the 185-page report titled "Of Loose Paper and Vague Allegation." I want to talk briefly about this title of this report. Equal Education explained that the title of the report makes reference to the ways in which the social audit was referred to in the media by Honorable MEC Schaefer. Both the MEC and the Premier Helen Zille repeatedly questioned the credibility of their data and the capacity of young black people to produce a rigorous account on their experiences of the safety and sanitation crisis in the Western Cape school. People of the Western Cape are not surprised by this kind of responses from both the MEC and the Premier. The responses show the attitude and arrogance. This party is convinced that they can never err. This was the same attitude when they challenged the AG outcome by MEC, right in front of me, MEC Windy's department was not awarded a clean audit. It has been the same manner of instances where they criticize courts if courts does not rule into their favor. This attitude we'll see when the MEC now respond when I've concluded. Allow me to give you a brief summary of the key challenges faced by the department to ensure that our vision as set out is achieved. Firstly, let's start with what the MEC said. Maybe we should start with the matric results. I think this is quite good. I think we have regressed, and I'm sure she forgot to say it, from the position we were last year to a lower position. I'm sure she just forgot about it, but I just remind the House that that was the situation. She also forgot to tell this House that schools that performed under 60% in 2016 was 19. This 2017, it has increased to 31. So there again, it seems that whatever we are using might not necessarily work and needs to be revised and looked at. MEC. I think there's a problem there. We can't have an increase in underperforming school while we are saying, yes, we accept the quality of classes. That we accept. It happened, there is quality class, but unfortunately, we still have schools which performed at the lowest, I think, is 36%. And that cannot be acceptable. And unfortunately, MEC, this is in our poor rural areas which this is taking place. So we call on you and the department to look at this issue. The second challenge we're looking at, as we look at the story, is overcrowding. Overcrowding, the reality presents a major risk to full attainment of the overarching goal, and teachers and learners ratio in township school is reaching unacceptable levels. I think you've mentioned that's the problem, and I agree with you, that's the problem. This in return is making teaching in classroom almost impossible. It's almost impossible that you expect a class of 1 to 65 to be able to perform as a class to 1 to 20 in many affluent schools. So I think this budget should, in fact, have spoken to those issues. That's what this budget should spoke, because those are the issues that prohibits us from reaching whatever we need to, those three overarching goals. I think that's what we need to look at. And Madam Speaker, the MEC and this department needs to take full responsibility of this challenge. Another challenge is safety of teachers and learners in schools, as well as on their way and from school. An estimated of 6 learners and administrators feel unsafe at schools in the Western Cape. A worrying proportion of schools lack capacity to control who comes in and out of school premises. And this is a real challenge, and I think the MEC should have made mention of this issue. Fences, Madam Speaker, in a number of schools across the province are not steadily enough to keep the intruders out. A number of them have large gaps of holes. More than half of the school lack full-time security guards. Sexual harassment and rape prevails in the Western Cape schools, and reports suggest that, and I'm sure you have received those reports, that this incident does happen in school, in the presence of educators, not outside the school, in classroom. This is the problem that we have in the Western Cape. No wonder the Safe School Call Center received more than 20,000 calls per annum, according to the department. The unwillingness of the Western Cape DA government to provide or allocate sufficient safety budget does not assist the current crisis of our schools and our teachers and learners, which is a daily challenge for all of us. Another challenge is poor sanitation and infrastructure, and this is captured nicely in Equal Education's report. And this brings me back to what the report was by the MEC to this interministerial meeting about sanitation. I know you discussed the issues of pet toilets and so on, but your province has got about 58% challenges in terms of lack of proper toilets and access to, particularly to disabled learners. I think that's the challenge we face, and if you challenge that, I think one needs to look at those issues as well. Another challenge, Speaker, another challenge that we face, Speaker, is again what the MEC now boldly indicated she is reintroducing what I term the alcohol bill. It's the education amendment bill. But my problem in that bill, there might be good elements into the inclusion in the bill, but there is no way that this side of the House will accept. And I would really want to see what that public participation report suggests in terms of that insertion of is it 45B into that main legislation, where alcohol can be served during whatever activities at school, fundraising activity, whatever you call it. But for us, the issue of even having alcohol on a school premise, where it doesn't matter for whatever purpose, should not be there. It should not be brought to schools. In fact, we have fought that at least 100 meters from a school, that a shebeen can't be built around those issues. Now, what we are now doing is to say, when we've got a fundraising event or teachers has gotten, and you're giving now the HOD a whole list of criteria that he must now tick the boxes. He is now the policeman of this issue. So when the application is submitted, he must look at why do we do that? We now, for what he's supposed to be doing, we're diverting his attention now to tick off boxes of, okay, this application, is a college. These are the problems. You can't bring alcohol into a school premise. It doesn't matter for whatever reason. And I'm surprised that MEC, you are saying you are bringing it now back. In my view, you should have brought it back, but omit that clause that we insert in the main act. I think it's not progressive. It brings us way back into where we were in the past. We're sitting already at schools with drug abusers, and you know it. With in gang-fested communities, we've got learners who can't go to school, who are learners who are busy organizing themselves into gangs in school. And now what we are doing is to add another element to it, that, okay, we've got a fundraising event, now let's use alcohol in the schools. That becomes shebeen at schools. And I'm saying, exclude that as such. The ANC will never support that issue.
Order, please.
Speaker, it doesn't matter whether you get bursaries from alcohol sale at school. It's immaterial. You can get it somewhere else.
Honourable Olivier,
Why
please
must you have
speak
it
to
there?
me.
Madam Speaker, the real crisis in the department is facing now, as we speak, is old school buildings that has outlived its lifespan. And I think what the department's acknowledged to this when we had our committee meeting, that it's a crisis. It's a second crisis to what in fact, it's the first crisis to the water crisis. Because the schools has always been an issue of old buildings. These buildings are not safe for our learners. And we cannot sit back as an oversight committee and accept everything is honky-tonky while our learners go to school. We are in a safe building here. It's very safe here. It will not fall anytime soon. But go to a school, Eitzach has been closed. And the reason for Eitzach to be closed is because we've neglected that school, and it went to such a point that it's irreparable, and now we're closing it down because of our own failures. It's our own failures to maintain our own facilities. Now, we're going on a rampage in this department now. The MEC, in fact, go on a rampage every day. When I look at the Gazette, there's something of a school closure. So when she can't manage a school, she's closing it down. Yes, you're closing schools down. I'm happy you're seeing it as a joke. I'm happy for that. Maybe you should share the joke with those communities you are saving.
Please speak
it's
to
a
the
good
chair.
joke for you. I'm happy for that joke. Somlomo, our schools are asbestos, are planky schools in our township. The response to this crisis, and we accept the decrease in Program 6 does not assist us. It does not assist us, and I agree that reducing that allocation to Program 6, which is infrastructure, does not assist anyone. But also going on a rampage closing schools because of the poor quality of our own failures is also not a solution to the problem. Madam Speaker, the other problem also in this Program 6 is we see there's a 23% vacancy rate as well. We decrease, there's a vacancy rate, we're going on a rampage of closing. It's a problem. It's a problem in the province. Madam Speaker, having said this, Madam Speaker, I just want to raise on the issue of school safety. We are calling on the MEC and everyone, this interministerial committee, to prioritize the issue of safety of our learners at schools. Our learners are performing very well. And I must say, your quintile 1 to 3 schools, as you indicated in your own input now, that is performing very well. In fact, that's where the majority of your so-called SARTU teachers are at. And I'm sure you agree with me that although they are not too much your friends and you are not happy about them, I'm happy you acknowledge their work. I'm happy you acknowledge that their schools are performing. Despite whatever, despite the overcrowding, despite them being on gunpoint at some stage, where learners come to school with knives, they still perform. And then you look at the other side of the coin, where you have a class of 1 to 12, you know, and this is the competition. And I can give you one school, for example, in Hermanas, where I come from, which is now regressed from number 1 to number 10 as a region in the country. And I'm sure you know about it. They were number 1 in 2016, the most performing region, most performing district, in fact, in the country. They are now number 10. You find schools there where there's schools which has a ratio in class of 1 to less than 20. And I'm saying, unless those disparities have been corrected and rectified, you cannot say that the playing fields are level. And I'm saying this budget should be a budget to assist us in leveling the playing fields. And I fully agree with you, and this is where I agree with you, that the quintile system needs to be reviewed. We've made a call when Honorable Mackenzie was the chair representing you in George at a public hearing. We've made that call, and he said he's going to tell you. We've made the call that the quintile system is not assisting, because what you find now is that you have learners that has now come from our previous disadvantaged areas moving into your affluent areas. There, in fact, the deputy minister said his door is open. They wanted to speak to the MEC. She was not available, and MEC Mackenzie represented you there. MEC Mackenzie represented you there. So don't blame the deputy minister. The deputy minister indicated it's open for business. Come, let's talk. No, let's talk. The MEC, let's talk. In fact, let me come back to your department, which is a total fail. I think where we are now, it's good you reminded me. I did not want to raise it, but the Department of Education, you are the implementing agents of infrastructure and building of schools, and it's your department that is failing us. Because you not. In fact, you failed us when you were at this department first. You created these problems and you move away, and you created problems somewhere else. So let's continue.
Kindly take your seat, please, Honourable Olivier. Minister Windy. Honourable Olivier, will you take a question?
Yes.
Can the member tell us that during the ANC's term of office, how many schools they built, and now during the DA's term of office, how many schools has been built?
No, will you give the answer? Speaker, I just
Order,
want to
please,
respond
members. Sorry, a question was posed to you, Honourable Olivier.
Madam Speaker.
I can't have you engaging across the
No, I just want to respond to the question.
Thank you.
I'm only responding to senior leaders of the DA, not to the Speaker. That's not a question. Some law. Some law more in.
Honourable Olivier, on that note, I sadly need to inform you that your time has expired.
I'm speaking to the national leaders there.
Honourable Olivier.
Some law more in closing.
Your time has expired.
Is it
Thank
just
you,
one
yes.
sentence? Some law more, let me thank. Some law more, if you give me a few minutes.
No, there's no few minutes. You have a sentence. Your time has expired.
Let me thank that department for the work they are doing. Thank the committee. And I hope that the DA leadership will really see that we have a different MEC in this department. This department is doing well. I think where the problem is political head. And maybe thank you.
Honourable Olivier, you took the liberty of indulging that final sentence. I will hold you to that. I see the Honourable Christians.
Madam Speaker, I want to repeat what I said the other day. Pupils are our biggest investment, according to David Harrison. And he further says that as South Africa seeks a new path to economic growth and development, we must face up the reality that our public education system is too big to keep on failing. And he gave three reasons. He said, teachers who cannot or will not teach. And I'm going to skip the second one. The third one says, school governing bodies and principals that cannot lead properly. Now, I cannot understand, Speaker, that if you look at Metro East, you have one school that performs at 92%, 92.8%. And then you have another school, a senior secondary school, performing at 38%. It must tell me that there's teachers who do not want to teach. There's principals and school governing bodies that cannot lead properly. So I do not believe, Speaker, that the ratio is the only problem. There is more problems when it comes to teacher. Yes, it's one of the problems, the teacher-learner ratio. But there's more problems, and we need to sort that out. And we want to hear from the MEC that 75% goes to the compensation for employees. Are we getting value for money? Are we getting value for money? Speaker, I'm on record, and I'm still on record to say the ACDP also, because of my 2 minutes, I must rush through it, but the ACDP also opposed the consumption of sale of alcohol at our schools. It's disastrous. It must be repealed. It must never be introduced, because we know that we have enough problems at our schools. I thank you.
Thank you. In the absence of the EFF, I now recognize the Honourable, the Minister, Minister Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Firstly, Honourable Kivido, thank you very much for your kind words.
Members.
Talk about arrogance and disrespect, Madam Speaker. Honourable Kivido, thank you for your kind words, and I would like to completely support your congratulations to my department. They are an extremely hard-working bunch of people, and they really do put the learners first. Honourable Ulufi, I'm going to take most of my time on you because I don't know how many more times I have to explain to you these issues. You start by saying the ANC is leading the doors, opening the doors to education. It's the ANC national government that put in place the quintile system. It's the ANC national government that is giving us an inadequate budget. It's the ANC national government that has not changed the provincial equitable share formula to give us money for the children that are in the province. That's how well the ANC is opening the doors of learning. The ANC's got plenty of money for VIP protection, SAA bailouts, ESCOM bailouts, SABC bailouts, Zuma bailouts, but nothing for our children. Don't tell me that the ANC's opening the doors to education. Secondly, as far as the pitfalls are concerned, actually, although the special needs equitable provincial, what's it called? Conditional grant is being increased from last year, it is actually being reduced from what it was supposed to be because the ANC has been wasting and stealing half the money. Then, equal education study. I'm so tired of them trying every avenue to get publicity. Equal education gave us eventually a consolidated document after the most horrendous actually tactics that I've ever seen by any so-called NGO, who actually spends half their time supporting Palestine, which shows what their real agenda is actually. But the fact of the matter is, we gave a detailed, they are a political organization, they're not an NGO. Then, they gave me this document eventually. We spent days and days and days on a response to them on every one of those issues. It was a completely unscientific document. There was no randomized sampling whatsoever. We gave them about an 80-page response, including some steps that they could take to assist us in dealing with the issues they proposed. They have not come back to us on one of those. They then go on and on about safety and security on the way to and from school. Arrogant. You must see when they come into my office how they treat me. Okay? I have always said, and I maintain, I will always speak to people who are genuinely interested in engaging in issues to find solutions, not who want to go and grandstand in public on a stage than a meeting that they've organized. I, again, said the other day, they're welcome to have a meeting with me. I have yet to have a request for a meeting in my office. I will reiterate that today. If they are genuinely interested in trying to solve the problems, we've had meetings with them before, we've told them what our budget is, we've told them what our constraints are, we've told them what the issues are, they don't care. They want to make a publicity about it, and that's what they do. They don't actually look at what the real issues are that we face and how we can honestly change those issues. I won't worry. Overcrowding, Honourable Ulufi, I don't know if Honourable Ulufi actually listened to my speech because I dealt with most of those issues in my speech. I was the one who raised overcrowding. I've been raising it since I've been in office, and it's thanks to the ANC's national negotiations on wages without giving us the budget to cover the increase that they negotiated, because they're too busy giving the money to the Guptas and Kandla and various other things, and to actually give us the money to pay for what they negotiated. It is a major risk, and I completely agree with you, and I really am quite despondent at the ANC's lack of concern of giving us the adequate budget allocations. I've been raising it with the Department, even National Treasury, regarding the equitable share formula. Nothing has changed. That's how much the ANC is opening the doors to education. This budget should have spoken to those issues. Well, yes, I agree. Tell me how. Tell me, make a proposal, make a concrete proposal as to what we should cut to give us the shortage of teachers amount, because I would really love to know. As far as full-time security guards are concerned, we're an education department. We don't have money for full-time security guards at every school. As far as sanitation is concerned, the DBE's figures, as I've said, on the pit toilets were incorrect. We are busy looking at the sanitation issues. We have prioritized sanitation over the last few years, and we've made significant progress, as I've said in my speech. The bill, I can't even justify anymore. I've given my side of the story. The number of schools where they have already got functions where alcohol is served to adults is quite interesting in itself, and I have had a number of submissions from schools that completely support it. The bill will go to public participation with the standing committee, and the standing committee can then process those public participation inputs. As far as school buildings are concerned, I agree with you. I've told you what the needs are that we have to provide for learners, the additional learners. Give us the money and we will happily fix every school in the province. Reason for Eitzig, so now it's our failure that the school has been repeatedly vandalized year after year. Classrooms picked up and carried away, and the community did nothing about it. And now it's my fault because we didn't maintain the school. We did not vandalize the school, and we can't continue to pour money down a bottomless pit of vandalism. As far as Eastern, I mean, if you want to look for, I'm laughing because I can't believe the terminology "go on a rampage." I'm not sure if the honourable member has seen the dispatch in the Eastern Cape, where they are closing 1,900 schools. That is a rampage. That is a rampage. I think I'm closing about 3 at the moment, if that. So let's not misrepresent facts. It's actually national policy also. SATU, yes, there are some excellent SATU members. Honourable Ulufi is not even listening to my response. I agree there's some excellent SATU teachers, Honourable Ulufi. There are some excellent SATU teachers performing in extremely difficult circumstances. So that's not the issue at all. I don't have an issue with individual members of SATU. There's some very good ones. Overberg, yes, I'm also concerned that they've reduced in their national position. But the fact of the matter is, many of the same applies to the matric position. If you want us to get rid of 20%, an additional 20% of our learners between grade 10 and 12, then we would also be number 1, like the Free State. But we prefer to keep as many learners in the system as we can so that they have opportunities when they leave school to get their matric. So I'd rather have a 65% retention rate of learners in school from grade 10 to 12 than to get rid of those learners and claim to have number 1 position. The same applies to our districts, and we will soon be having another award ceremony for districts where the inclusive basket of criteria will be used, and we anticipate that our districts will do a lot better in those results. As far as Honourable Christians is concerned, I completely agree with you about value for money. It is a huge amount of money we're spending. We are looking at that. Part of the solution to that will be the School Evaluation Authority. There are huge problems with the IQMS system where people evaluate each other and don't want to give them bad marks because they're scared of their relationships. So we are trying to take that, make it a little bit more independent and objective process to have a look at what's really going on in the classroom to try and ensure that we do assist our teachers where they need assistance and expose issues of lack of accountability where those exist. And also we are busy with the process in our HR department as well to ensure that we can more quickly deal with people who simply do not wish to perform. Thank you.
Order. Thank you. That concludes the debate on this vote. We will now suspend business for a few minutes before we proceed to the next vote. The House is suspended.